Happy Friday. It's the Prep Queen Pod. We're on for the next hour, talking all things you need to know going into the weekend. Hope you all had a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Hope you all are enjoying a day off, hopefully. There's no days off in the sports calendar, though. There's no days off when it comes to gambling. Even though Wednesday we kind of came close. There wasn't a lot going on Wednesday, but we redeemed ourselves yesterday. I was really pissed yesterday, actually, because yesterday I was supposed to hit this Prize Picks lineup. This is why we don't bet bad numbers. Because yesterday I did end up going 3-0 on the best bets that I had on Pickett Sports. I had the Jared Goff under pass completions. I had the over. What was the over in the first game I had that I ended up? Deebo Samuel over his longest reception. And then the last game, I had Travis Kelce over his longest reception prop, to which it hit at over 13.5 if you saw it on Pickett Sports. Then I went to Prize Picks. And Prize Picks decided to give us a 16.5. And I said, you know what? It's his last game at Arrowhead. I'll just go with it. And I should have ended up going with the Chiefs backup quarterbacks under rushing yards against the Broncos. Today on the show, we are going to be joined by mid-major Matt. He's going to break down some of the bowl games. He will also break down the big hire that Michigan just made, getting their new head coach. Matt will tell us his insights into if the Utah hire over at Michigan was worthy. He's going to tell us about some bowl games as well. We'll talk some NFL props going into the weekend. We've got 2 games tomorrow for the NFL and then a full slate on Sunday. Steve Merrill from WagerTalk, if you don't know, he has been on an absolute heater. So I had him on last call on Thursday for Christmas yesterday. It felt so long ago. Christmas yesterday, Steve Merrill and I did last call on WagerTalk, and he told me how hot he's been in the NFL and the NBA. So we're going to get him on. We've got a big NBA slate tonight. I know that the NBA yesterday, like Joseph Rodriguez said, SGA and the Thunder killed his parlays. I'm sorry. Everyone was probably high on Oklahoma City yesterday. Telling you, there was that whole trend. We were talking about it. The trend where the runner-up for the NBA Cup goes on heaters. San Antonio Spurs to win the West. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. A lot of injuries to get to. The Pittsburgh Steelers announced that TJ Watt is officially out for their game against the Cleveland Browns. That game is going to be on Sunday in the 1 p.m. Eastern time slate. There's also some other injury updates. Let's get the graphics up. That one, I was working out when it came out. Cleveland injuries. The Browns have ruled out their tight end, David Njoku, and their backup tight end, Harold Van Jr. He had a groin injury suffered during practice, so he's questionable going into the game against the Steelers. But it was very interesting, and I'm going to show you guys some lines that did move. There's another injury to the Colts, which we could get to a little bit. But yes, Matt Reichel, the dogs were barking yesterday, and if you watch last call, Prez was all over it. My friend Chris Thurston was all over it. People were all over the dogs yesterday, if you listen to some sharp friends of mine. But like I mentioned about the Steelers game, so there were some lines that have definitely moved going into the weekend that I found pretty interesting. I was just talking about the Steelers, so we can talk about it. The Steelers were -5.5 as of last Sunday, and now they're -3 against Cleveland. The Browns always play really tough against the Steelers. As someone who absolutely loves the AFC North, I've watched the AFC North crumble in the last couple of weeks of the year, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they always find a way to have to play close games against the Browns, at least once a year. So that's a 1.5 point move. And that happened before the TJ Watt news. Granted, I'm sure TJ Watt was somewhat baked in, but this was even before the TJ Watt move. You know where I'm going. And Joseph Rodriguez said it. I did like the points, and I do like the points with the Cleveland Browns this week. The Steelers defense has not been good. They've been on a really, really tough stretch. I know I keep saying that, but at some point, the pressure and the injuries and the defense has to start getting a little bit tired. That was a really tough stretch that they've been on. And Pittsburgh looked good last week against Detroit. But again, Detroit, Buffalo, Baltimore, and then a short week because you had to play Miami on a Monday night. It was a really tough 4-week stretch for the Pittsburgh Steelers and old man Aaron Rodgers. Now you get the Cleveland Browns. You're going to go into Cleveland. You're going to think all is well. Maybe the Browns surprise you against this not-so-great Pittsburgh defense that's been struggling, especially against the pass. Shedeur Sanders now has a few weeks under his belt. And the Browns, not that there's much to play for, but I do feel the Browns are one of the more motivated teams going into the weekend of the teams that are out of it. I know that you could say, oh, they want a draft pick, but I really do think that the Browns want Shedeur Sanders to be the answer. And when you want your quarterback to be the answer, you don't want to play poorly for him and make him look bad. The Browns, I'm just saying, I think the Browns are a good play this week. Not because I want it to happen as a Ravens fan, but because it seems good. And speaking of the Ravens, that Packers line keeps moving in Green Bay's favor. I'm curious now because I checked this right before I worked out. And then while I was working out, they announced the Packers that Jordan Love is going to be out because of the concussion tomorrow against the Ravens. So that means Malik Willis is trending to play. That line now just moved back to 3.5. So that line went to 4.5, I guess, when they decided that Jordan Love was going to be questionable, but now they downgraded him to out. It's going to be Malik Willis most likely under center for Green Bay. That line now moved back down to 3.5. The Ravens are going to likely, I assume, put Tyler Huntley on the field. I can't see a world where Lamar Jackson actually ends up playing. According to Dr. Chow, he said that they needed really like a rib blocker to go in there and be successful in order for Lamar to even be able to move. Doesn't seem like we're going to get Lamar. Josh Allen also going to play this weekend for Buffalo, to which I did think, yeah, I saw that line move too, but Jacksonville, a point moved against them. Tampa Bay, the line moved a point in their favor. New England line moved a point in their favor, large spread. Giants, that line has been all over the place, bounced back to -1.5. And then Buffalo, that line, even despite obviously Josh Allen being in, has moved against them from -2.5 to -1.5. Big game between the Eagles and the Bills. Should be a good one. Relatively low total, 44.5. Supposedly there's some snow coming into Buffalo. Not that the Bills care. The Eagles are used to cold weather. So, hey, you never know. Colts injuries. Sauce Gardner looks like he's going to play, which is interesting with, I guess, I don't know why, but okay. But DeForest Buckner, he aggravated his neck injury. He's going to have season-ending surgery on a herniated disc. So he is going to be out. Big blow for the Indianapolis Colts. Just looking at the board right now for some of these playoff odds too. You've got Pittsburgh -1,500 to make the playoffs. Tampa -158. Carolina +134. Baltimore +870. Jesus Christ. Colts still alive. 30-1. 30-1 for the Colts to make the playoffs, but they are not eliminated yet. To miss the playoffs, the Colts are -10,000. Baltimore is -1,500. The Panthers -158. Tampa +134. My poor girl Kelly in Vegas is sitting on that Carolina Panthers ticket to win the division since preseason. I think she got it like 6-1 or 8-1 or something crazy like that. So good for Kelly in Vegas for having some great numbers. And like I said, when the show started, I'm glad that we have Mid-Major Matt coming on the show today because I'm very curious his thoughts on this signing over in Michigan. It's going to be Utah's coach Kyle Whittingham, who agreed to a 5-year deal to be Michigan's next head coach. Let's bring on Mid-Major Matt to talk about it. Matt, happy Friday. Big signing over at Michigan.
Yeah, they got it right. Kyle Whittingham's one of my favorite coaches. I do a radio hit on Saturdays on Sirius XM about 9:30 on their college sports channel. And people who listen to me know that Kyle Whittingham's one of my favorite coaches in America. And quite often do I lean to his side in toss-up sort of games. And he's going to have a lot more resources at Michigan now, going from recruiting for Utah to recruiting to Michigan. Like we've seen a lot of coaches make that adjustment. Bronco Mendenhall went from BYU to Virginia, and there was a year of adjustment. But the good thing so far is we've seen a lot of the 4- and 5-star kids that Michigan had recruited under the previous regime wanting to stay. So that's always a good sign.
Now you have to go up against Ryan Day and Ohio State, which is always, can you beat Ryan Day and Ohio State? That seems to be the bar at Michigan, like it was for Jim Harbaugh. How much confidence do you have in Whittingham in year one?
Well, I think I have a lot of confidence in the first year or two. My question is, how much will they start to use his age against him in recruiting? He is, he's in his 60s. I think it's 60s, either that or early 70s. But like he's in his 60s. So like, how many more years is he going to do it? Like when he stepped down from Utah, we all thought he was just retiring. And so now that he's not retiring, but he was thinking about it at one point, how much does that hurt Michigan in recruiting against other schools? I think early on, he's going to give about 3 to 5 years. And then if he's successful, I think he's going to stay longer. If he's not as successful, he might look for an exit strategy.
I know that when people, especially with all the transfer portal, et cetera, over in these schools today, it is really tough to keep players, especially when there's so much turnover with these head coaches. the talent left at Michigan, is it good? What's the outlook, player personnel wise, going into next year?
I mean, you just said it. Who knows who's going to be on Michigan? Like, so far, I don't
You
think
think the
anybody's.
hire's enough to keep players there?
I think so, and I think they're going to have enough money that they're going to be able to do that. I think the money situation won't be an issue. I mean, we just saw them get a lot of money for Bryce Underwood, so I don't think money will be an issue there. I think that it will be the recruiting of somebody. I mean, look. Nobody has opted out yet or transferred out, I think, from Michigan yet because they've got their bowl game still. So after the bowl game, I think we'll see some players leave potentially. But I think the key will be the recruits, the really good recruits. Are they going to stay? And so far, it seems like they are.
Let's talk about those bowl games. We've got a bunch of bowl games finally tomorrow, a big slate of big teams that, yeah, they got gypped, some of them, or they had bad seasons like Penn State and Clemson, who are playing in the Pinstripe Bowl, the Military Bowl. Right? No, Pinstripe Bowl, right? Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium on Saturday. Penn State, how would you play this game with them in Clemson? Two teams that always have college football playoff aspirations and just didn't make it this year.
So there's always one game every year where everybody opts out. And this is the game. I think Dabo said they're going to be without 27 players. I saw a stat courtesy of Stuckey, who has a lot of good stuff on the Action Network, that it's like 7 of the top 11 snap count guys on defense and 5 of the top 11 on offense are not playing for Clemson. Most of them have NFL draft aspirations, so they're not playing in this game. There's a couple of others who are opting out. Cade Klubnik is playing in that game, so that's good for Clemson. But basically, it's him and their running back, I think, Adam Randall, and that's about it. And then on the other side for Penn State, you've got a lot of guys opting out as well. You've got some guys injured. There was one guy who got injured in practice last week, getting ready for this game. So this is the game that is going to be the toughest to predict. The thing I think that's going to be on Penn State's side here is that their interim head coach, the guys love him. They absolutely love the guy, Terry Smith. And I think he's going to be on the staff next year for Penn State. So, these players, we've seen Katron Allen say he's going to play in this game. We've seen Dennis Sutton, their defensive player, say he's playing in this game. So I think Penn State's going to be really interested in playing in this game. The problem is, as we said, everybody is gone from both teams in this contest. So I kind of like the over 2.5 touchdowns for Penn State here. Their backup quarterback has been playing for quite a while. Katron Allen hopefully will play in this game. Their full complement of wide receivers have not opted out. So they're going to have a pretty close to complete offense, whereas Clemson's going to have a lot of guys on defense who are not playing in this game. The weather certainly is a complicating factor. I mean, you could tell me a little bit better, but I saw that there's a chance of snow. It's
supposed to really snow here.
Yeah, I saw a chance for snow. Now, here's the thing that's very interesting. People will automatically bet the under in snow games. The over is actually the better play to make. And so if this thing drops precipitously, the total, I think the over comes into play. If you think about it, so everybody thinks about, okay, snow, that it's going to be tough to have your footing, and there's,
But the snow's supposed to end in the morning. This game kicks off at noon Eastern. So if the snow ends by, let's say, 9, 10 a.m., Yankee Stadium, I don't know how good they are at shoveling. I will tell you, I have seen that field look like it is flooding into the bleachers, and somehow that field sucks water out real freaking quick. So they do have a good drainage system. I'm just not sure how good they'll be at shoveling snow off the field.
Yeah, I think if there is still snow in the field, that plays towards the over here. And actually, as wild as it is, with all the defensive players who are out in this game, I almost do kind of lean to the game over, but I think Penn State's offense is in a little bit better shape. As I said, their top wide receivers are playing, their top running back. I don't think he's going to get the full complement of carries, so I wouldn't play over on his props or anything like that, but I think that Katron Allen playing is a good thing, and I think they're going to be really motivated to play for their interim head coach. I don't know what Clemson's motivation is to play for Dabo. Are there kids who are just tired of Dabo by now? And they're playing in a baseball stadium when they should have probably had a better season and made the playoffs. So I think Penn State has more motivation in this game, and I'm going to play over 2.5 touchdowns here. It's a little juicy. It's minus 150 on DraftKings. Maybe your sports book has a little bit better here, but I think Penn State's offense shows up in this one.
You mentioned the total, maybe an over 47.5 is what I'm seeing at FanDuel right now. Still like the over there? It's low for a college football game, not so much for an NFL game.
So So for the people who follow me, I post a lot of my plays on the morning of because I want to see what the market does. I'm not going to touch that yet because I want to see if it comes down a little bit. If we can get more value out of it, why not wait?
Yeah, like maybe they're waiting to see all the videos of us idiots posting the snow falling in New York, which I mean, it wasn't when I got on the show, but I see that Joseph Rodriguez said it's bad outside right now.
Well, and I just think that if it goes under, all the money on the under comes in, you'll get a better number. And if no money comes in, then you get to reevaluate your bet. Like at this number, I don't like the over, but I think if it goes down, I think the over comes into play. We just have no idea. Like we have no idea. There might be one or two players who practice and don't play. There might be one or two players we have no idea or weren't playing in this game. Like it's a tough game to handicap. That's why I'm going a little bit more with Penn State here than Clemson.
We've got the Fenway Bowl, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. So we'll go from Yankees over to the rivals, the Red Sox. Clearly, Matt and I are very excited about baseball season in like 3 months. But the Red Sox will be hosting this UConn and Army game, to which I can't see the lines because we can't bet on Army here in New York. You'll let me know what you think of that game and what the hell the line is, because unless I pull up my odds logic screen, I'm not going to be able to see the Army lines.
By the way, real quick before we get to that, as a person in the chat pointed out, another first quarter under for Minnesota to close out the season. It was a 3-0 score.
Oh, yeah, Sharon Stokes.
So for those who haven't been paying attention, Minnesota averages less than a point per first quarter against FBS opponents this season. It's a bet that I've made every week almost, except for I think the Ohio State game and the Oregon game because I was a little worried and those went over. But this game, it was 9.5, 10 I got, and it was 3-0 as we go to the end of the first quarter. Minnesota didn't score. So it's a bet that I've played for years. And so we will do it once again next year, depending upon what Minnesota's offense looks like. But nice 2-0 so far with 2 first quarter unders in these 2 games. But you mentioned the Fenway Bowl. So I'm looking here, and I see pretty much
Fenway Bowl.
Exactly, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. I see Army minus 7.5, minus 8 in some places. It looks like it looks like minus 8 in Vegas, but minus 7.5 in the sports books online. So this is an interesting game. The things that we actually do know, UConn's all-world quarterback is not playing in this game. He's opting out. He's transferring. So we do know that. There's been a lot of questions about UConn's backup quarterback. His name is Nick Evers. He was a transfer who came in. He started over UConn's starting quarterback last year. Didn't last very long because he wasn't very good. It was a great decision. The backup was better, and then now he's the starter this year. But we don't know for sure if he's playing. There's rumors that he entered the transfer portal. There's rumors he may not play in this game, which is kind of ridiculous because he would start a bowl game as the backup. If that doesn't happen, UConn's going to their 4th string quarterback because their 3rd string quarterback also went to the transfer portal. So there is that. There's also, I believe I wrote down because I'm doing my write-ups for the newsletter tomorrow. There are 11 players in the transfer portal for UConn, including 3 starting offensive linemen, their starting running back, 2 starting defensive players, and a bunch of other depth guys. But the wide receiver, Skylar Bell, who everybody thought was going to opt out of this game, is trying to convince the transfer portal guys to play one last time together as a bunch for UConn. That includes their starting running back, who it looks like is going to play in this game, Cam Edwards. So if you're counting at home, the starting wide receiver who's really good and the starting running back who is really good, both seem to be playing in this game as of now. Of course, things could change tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. But I think we're kind of undervaluing UConn here a little bit. Now, look, Army, it's interesting because Army plays the triple option, and you would think with more time to prepare for the triple option, teams would do very well against them in bowl games. Army's actually 3-1, 4-1 their last 5 bowl games against the spread. So they are pretty good. We have no idea about opt-outs and transfers, but it's Army. They don't opt out. They don't transfer. So they're going to all play in this game. So I think I like UConn plus the points a little bit. Now I'll be waiting until closer to make sure that we get Evers as the starting quarterback and not the 4th stringer, which would definitely scare me a little bit. I also think if we get Evers at quarterback, I'm hoping that the number comes down a little bit. The total is 42.5, which is a key number. I'm hoping we could get a 41.5 maybe. I kind of like the over a little bit. UConn's weakness on defense is the rush defense. That's all Army really does is run the ball and run the ball and run the ball. So I think they're going to score some points. And I think if we get the right UConn players in the offensive side of things, I think they're going to score some points here. So I'm looking for that key number of 41.5 in this game, but I kind of like the over. I kind of like UConn, but I'm going to wait on both till tomorrow to make sure nothing fishy happens.
We've also got a bowl game coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern time, the First Responder Bowl. Anything there?
So I played over 59.5. It is now 61.5, 62 in some places. So some of the value is gone. You're not getting the best number here. For this game, we are seeing the coach said about last week, he said 10 to 20 players are going to be out of this game for UTSA. That includes their defense, and their defense was terrible as it is, and a lot of their defense is opting out. And so I think Florida International can score some points. FIU has 4 members of their secondary transferring, so they're not playing in this game. FIU's pass defense was brutal as it was. So I think UTSA should be able to find some success. The weather is good for this game. As long as no one opts out last minute, I think we could see a ton of points in this game. As I said, I got a better number than there is now, so I don't recommend it as much. I did see something. I think that Owen McCown's passing TDs for this game is 1.5. If that's the case, I like the over there. I think he's good for 2 or 3 potentially in this game. Heck, I'd even consider sprinkling on over 2.5 passing touchdowns for him because he should have his full complement of wide receivers. And as I said, FIU's without 4 guys in their secondary, including Brian Blades, who is the son of Brian Blades, who played at Miami.
Oh, I love that connection. We're going to be competing, too, in the NFL tomorrow against these bowl games that I think actually people are going to be interested in some of these big teams. But then we've got the NFL in action with 2 games on the slate. First game is going to be the Texans and the Chargers. Again, should be a good game, especially the way the Texans are playing on absolute fire. Chargers at home. If they lose, the Denver Broncos do clinch the division. But if the Chargers win, then there's still some competition there. But the Chargers wide receiver, Trey Harris, you're looking at him tomorrow. How come he's the one you're looking at?
So, look, you don't want to go up against Houston in terms of passing. There's a lot of bad numbers. Like Ladd McConkey is a guy that you usually look at, but Jalen Petrie is one of the best slot corners outside of Cooper DeJean in the league. So you don't look at Ladd McConkey. On the outside, there's a lot of tough corners too. So I'm looking at the fourth corner. Like if we get a lot of 4 wide receiver sets here, if you look at what Trey Harris has done the last couple of weeks, he's getting involved. Now his snap count is not as good. And there was the game 2 weeks ago when Quentin Johnston wasn't there and he got a lot of time there. But if you look at last week, in over 50% of his snaps, he still got 3 or 4 receptions. And so this is a guy that's still getting used. And I find it hard to believe that Houston has a fourth corner who can match up with this guy potentially. So it's a small bet, but like we've talked about on the show, I find more value sometimes in the backups. And I'm mad at myself because I always say that in the show. And I didn't play Malik Davis yesterday because that was obvious that Malik Davis against a bad rush defense for the Commanders was going to have a really good game. I didn't play that. I only took him to score a touchdown, and obviously he didn't score a touchdown. But I think Trey Harris has some value in this game. Both of these teams are top 5 in least rushing attempts seen. So you're going to want to throw in these games. And so I think Trey Harris gets involved a little bit. It's worth a sprinkle. Not my favorite bet. The next one's my more favorite of the 2 of them.
I assume it's something related to the kicker whisperer.
Yeah, Kicker Whisperer went 2-0 yesterday. Very happy about that. And we had Will Reichert over 6.5 points. He went over that. And then we had both kickers to have a 33-yard field goal or more. It's on DraftKings. So this game screams field goals. I mean, if you look at these 2 guys, they are 2 of the busiest field goal kickers in the league. Fairbairn is a guy that you're constantly taking overs on, and Cameron Dicker, the kicker, excuse me.
Dicker the kicker.
Yes, for the Chargers. He's a guy that you want to play. Now, the juice was really high on DraftKings. It was like minus 155, minus 160 for both of them to go over their 1.5. And since I think they're both going to have multiple opportunities in this situation, I took the yes on both guys to make over 33-yard field goals. Remember, we're indoors. These guys both kick regularly 50-yard field goals plus. And so I took over 33-yard field goals by both of them at minus 150 on DraftKings. I like that a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of field goals. Heck, you could even almost go with the over on the total yardage for this game, although it's a lot higher because they know that both these guys can hit 50-plus yarders. I like both of them to hit over 33.5 or 33-yard field goals at minus 150 on DraftKings.
Kicker Whisper in action. You're okay with laying minus 150?
Yeah, I like this one a lot. Yeah, this is a bet I like a lot because it's either laying minus 150.
Is good enough. Houston's defense can definitely stop the Chargers in the red zone. The Chargers are good enough offensively to be able to get into the red zone. It's just a matter of how good they are at conquering the Texans all the way downfield.
Yeah, and Houston's the one that scares me a little bit more, but
Yeah.
Fairbairn has such a leg that indoors he could make a 60-yarder if we need. He can make a 57-yarder if
What
we
are the
need it.
stakes in this game?
What are the what?
The stakes in this game. Do you know the situations? I know that the Chargers can win and I guess stop the Broncos from winning the division this week, but like I'm trying to remember the situations.
Well, Houston obviously needs it for the division.
Yeah.
And I would say that, and you just mentioned that the Chargers need it for the division. So like there's a lot at stake. And I think points are going to be at a premium in this game. So I think that both of them need to, I think both of them will settle for field goals. We know Harbaugh is no problem doing that. Harbaugh is a guy who loves settling for field goals. So like, I just think getting involved with Fairbairn and not San Diego, Los Angeles's kicker are the way to go in this one.
Yeah, Jacksonville's 11-4, Houston's 10-5. So one game back, and then in the AFC West, Denver already played. They're 13-3. Los Angeles 11-4. So just keep those records in mind. But obviously, this game does mean something to both these teams. Your team, the Philadelphia Eagles, in a big one against the Buffalo Bills. How would you play that game if your heart is willing to take it on?
I mean, look, I've already put my emotional hedge bet down on the Bills. I mean, there's a small part of me that says the Eagles, they need this game, but they don't really because they're pretty much in on the 3. Look, I think the Bears lose to the 49ers on Sunday night, which then comes down to, do I think the Lions with nothing to play for are going to go into Chicago and win that game? Because if the Eagles win the last 2 and the Bears lose the last 2, we get the 2 seed over them and bring them to Philadelphia in any sort of future game, which I think is important, but I also think a bye would be important for the Eagles. And remember, Dan Quinn said 2 weeks ago, I'm going to remember what you guys did, and we're going to remember that in Philadelphia in Week 18. That loser of a head coach. So there's part of me that thinks like they'll show up and they'll try, but like part of me also thinks that like it doesn't mean as much in the grand scheme of things because they could just stay at the 3 and just, be able to play whoever the 6 seed will be, which hopefully is not the Rams, because that scares the crap out of me. But I think this is a situation where I like some sort of under in this game with the field goals because it's supposed to rain. It's supposed to be wet. It was originally supposed to snow. Now it looks like it's going to change to rain because it's going to be above 30-something degrees there. And we have a Philadelphia team who already doesn't believe in Jake Elliott as it is. He's been miserable as a kicker so far the last couple weeks. I don't think they're going to be settling for field goals here. And Michael Badgley is the kicker for the Bills. He's not a long one either. Like he's hit a couple 50-yarders. I think I saw, and I sent it to you, I either like the under 3.5 field goals total for this game or under, I think it's like 130.5 yards total for field goals. I just think that.
That's a prop.
Yeah, that's a prop on DraftKings.
Under yardage for field goals, that's heavy math.
It's heavy. I don't play it often, although I have played it in Denver because in Denver, like, you can regularly have 60-yard field goals. So like, it's only really a couple situations that I could see myself playing that. I'm trying to pull up what the number is now, but I just don't see a lot of field goals in this game. I just don't think that either team trusts their field goal kicker right now. I mean, Badgley's not a guy who's going to make long ones. Yeah, the number is it's 126.5. Which means, 340-plus yard field goals. I don't know if I see that right now. I think probably the better one is under 3.5 field goals for this game. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of them. Jake Elliott's in a funk right now, and I don't think he's making field goals in the rain in a wet field like this. I think Sirianni has no problem going forward on 4th down if he has to.
King K, he wants to know, does Smith have a big game or should he sit him?
I mean, you have to check the weather beforehand, make sure it doesn't switch back to snow. It's so tough because I feel like the Bills, like the Eagles, if they're smart, the Eagles will run the ball 40 times in this game because the Bills can't stop the run. They can't stop the run. Like, once again, I'm looking at Tank Bigsby props because, and I don't see them out yet. I don't know if they're going to put any out yet. Maybe they will closer to the game. But like the Eagles, in theory, should be running Tank and running Saquon 30 times potentially. Like, and there should be more runs for Jalen. Like, I think Jalen should run the ball more. So, like, I think this is a game where the Eagles should be running it as much as possible. Have Hurts's attempts down. Hurts's attempts is so low as it is, 25.5 in this game. Like, that's a tough under to take if they're far behind. But if they're far behind, I also think they're just going to give up and then either take the bye next week or just, try next week against Washington. But yeah, the Eagles should be running it a lot. I don't think Devontae has a huge game. If AJ complains a little bit, AJ will get more receptions in this game. This is not a Dallas Goedert game. We know that the Bills are really good against the tight ends, really good against the tight ends.
But so are the Eagles. It's not a tight end game at all.
And by the way, this is not a Khalil Shakir game either. Like Cooper DeJean is a guy that will shut down Khalil Shakir. So this is a game where you're probably looking at the outside guys. If Gabe Davis is active, if Keon Coleman's active, but then who? This is where, because they keep Quinyon on a boundary, they don't follow him. So you have to kind of see where these guys line up. Will they be lining up away from Quinyon, or are they going to be lining up against Adoree Jackson, who's been pretty good this season? So this is a really tough game to kind of figure out. But there's avenues here. I think both teams just run it in the weather, and I think we get a lower scoring game. But just a lot of James Cook and Saquon Barkley.
One more question, then we'll get to Steve Merrill after this. Craig Abel said, do you have an opinion on BYU and Georgia Tech?
So as I started writing that up for my for the newsletter, which will be out tomorrow, this is a tough game for me because there's not a lot of opt-outs. As a matter of fact, I think no one's opting out for BYU, and I think outside of a center and a backup quarterback for Georgia Tech, there's nothing going on that side either. So you're really looking at the pure matchup itself. Now, Georgia Tech is going to be without their offensive coordinator, who's really good. Buster Faulkner is going to Florida. He is really good. So Chris Wenke is actually going to be the offensive coordinator, the former Florida State quarterback. The thing that's interesting here is BYU is going to be without L.J. Martin, the number one running back. Georgia Tech has a terrible rush defense. So I don't know if BYU could take advantage of it. Their backup is also in the transfer portal. So they're going to their third string running back in this game, which means the freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, might have to do a little bit more for BYU. I think BYU wins this game, but I think Georgia Tech covers. I'd almost consider throwing Georgia Tech in a teaser. Georgia Tech right now is, what is it? I see 4 as the number in a lot of places. I would almost throw Georgia Tech in a teaser right now and go take whoever else. Maybe tease them with Army, and then essentially you're just asking Army to win the game. Those are the only 2 games that I feel the most confident about the sides tomorrow and are teasable. Or in theory, you could tease it down on the UTSA tonight because UTSA is a 7-point favorite. But I think this is a BYU win and Georgia Tech covers. So maybe you tease Georgia Tech up and then pair it off with an NFL game you like, or either UTSA tonight or Army tomorrow.
Mid-Major Matt's going to be writing his Mid-Major Matt newsletter tomorrow at thepropqueen.com. So make sure to check it out. If you have any questions and you need your answers, he's going to have it for you tomorrow morning at thepropqueen.com so that you guys could see all the insights when it comes to every bowl game tomorrow, because we finally have a really good slate of bowl games. Matt, we'll see you Monday.
Sounds good.
See ya. Coming on now, we're going to be joined by a guy who's on an absolute heater. I just spoke to him on WagerTalk's last call yesterday for Christmas. It was very nice of him, and apparently he's not wearing his very fancy, very nice Christmas shirt. I guess he overwore it and decided that it was time to put it in the washing machine. Steve Merrill joining the show. We're going to talk NBA. We're going to talk NFL. How was your Christmas?
It was nice. It was even better because I got to see you yesterday, and I should have brought you a prop, and it's sitting right over there in a heap of stuff. Some boxing gloves for Boxing Day, December 26th. I thought of it earlier, and I walked back in.
You have a shirt for that, too.
So it's funny you talk about the Santa shirt because I did the NFL games tomorrow back on Tuesday. I pre-recorded them to try to get everything up nice and early, and I knew it was a mess because neither the Packers or Ravens even knew their quarterbacks back on Tuesday. Some sportsbooks didn't even have a line. So that video was sitting there for a few days with the Santa shirt. And then I told the WagerTalk team this morning, I was like, I got to re-record this. The line went from 2.5 to 4.5. Willis was upgraded to available. It looked like Huntley was going to go. Love was maybe questionable now, and that's why it went to 4.5. So Ariel did it with Dan, did it with the WagerTalk hoodie, no Santa shirt. Still got the mug.
You couldn't date yourself.
I kept Will Farrell. Will Merrill, Steve Farrell, the Feral Cat. I like Will Merrill better because Steve Farrell sounds like Feral Cat. But
yeah.
So we knocked that out about 2:00 Eastern today, and then of course 2 hours later, as the video is live, Love is now out. So the line's now gone from 4.5 to 3.5. And I kind of thought it'd be Willis, but I mentioned in the video, Love maybe will play. So anyway, it looks like we're going to have backup versus backup. As you know, Lamar is
How
not
does
expected
that
to
change
play.
your outlook on the game?
Back on Tuesday in my hot tub time machine, I was leaning towards the Ravens plus 2.5, but I said, they probably make a better teaser play, getting them up to 8.5. You could tease them with the Texans, by the way, at plus 2 up to 8. I think the Texans make a very nice teaser on the afternoon game. But once it hit 3.5, 4.5, it's not teasable anymore because you don't have that key number of 3. Now that it's dropped back to 3.5, we'll see where it closes. I think it's going to stay 3.5. I would probably rather be on the Ravens. In the battle of backups, I think Huntley is better. He's more like Lamar, and I think Willis is a huge drop-off from Love. He's been okay this year in mop-up duty. But, yeah, I think I like the Ravens better now that Love is not going to be out there. My concern was that Love might start, and I said in the video today that, if that's the case, you're probably better off just playing an in-game and getting a better price maybe with the Ravens. But now I'd be more likely to take them plus 3.5 pregame.
I felt the same if I took my fandom aside, because I actually would almost like to see them lose, because the only way that you really see a difference be made in any team is if your team gets eliminated. However, if the Steelers lose tomorrow or Sunday and the Ravens win tomorrow, they're still alive.
Correct.
So they do still have a chance, the Ravens, if they win tomorrow. They just have to hope the Steelers lose to the Browns on Sunday. The Ravens have the better backup. Tyler Huntley's great. And even if the Ravens lose the game, Tyler Huntley has covered a lot of spreads as a backup quarterback for the Ravens.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to say, too, and I mean, you're realistic. A lot of the Raven fans get mad when I say this in the videos, but Lamar's been nothing special this year.
No.
And as you know, it's not a personal attack on Lamar.
I felt like he mailed it in at the start of the season.
Well, he's been so banged up, too. I mean, I saw that list last week. It's been a different injury every week, even when he's been healthy.
But that's where I'm confused. Is he injured? Is it just make-believe? I don't know. Like, his intent... I know that a lot of Ravens fans are mad about the article that was written this week about Lamar's incentive to play. It's not a Lamar issue. It's a Harbaugh issue. Or it's a Lamar issue, not a Harbaugh issue. I have heard so many rumblings about Lamar's work ethic for years, going back to when Lamar was in talks with the contract extension. Sometimes I don't know how hurt he really is.
Right.
I don't know, but I agree. Ravens plus 3.5 feels like the only play with two backup quarterbacks going head to head. And we saw how backup quarterbacks played out yesterday for Christmas with the Dogs going 3-0 on the slate. You also like the game even more before that. The Houston Texans taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. They're in LA. How would you play that game?
Yeah, so this one was 1.5. A lot of 2s were available a few hours ago. Now this one's moved. It's now 1.5. So, I talked about the Texans making a decent teaser. You got to get it up to 7.5 for it to be a teaser. So, just something for new bettors out there. +1 to +7 doesn't cut it because you got to get those key numbers working. This was 1.5, 2 most of the week. Now it's 1.5. So, might want to go ahead and lock in the Texans at +1.5, +2 if you can still find it. I do think they're the preferred side in this game. It's the second game on the rotation, but they flip-flop the start times. This is actually the 4:30 Eastern game on NFL Network. Peacock is getting the 8 o'clock game between your Ravens and somebody's Green Bay Packers. And this will be a good matchup, though. These are two playoff teams. Texans are at 97%. They win, they're in, but they don't even have to win. They're going to still get in most likely. The Chargers are in the 5 seed right now as the wild card. And they have to win this game. I believe the Broncos and then play next week. What they do, actually. I don't believe it. I know it. And, it could come down to that. Denver, of course, beating KC yesterday is a little bit of a blow to LA's chances to win the division, but they're still alive. They even have a chance of the 1 seed, but a lot of things would have to happen. So both teams are playing hard in this game. I just like the Texans' defense better. I think both offenses are mediocre. This is something else that got me in trouble in the comments. Somebody got very upset, and then I looked at his avatar, and it was a Bolt, and his name was something Bolt. He said he's never – you'll like this, Eric. He's never watching my WagerTalk videos again.
Because you bet against the Chargers?
Not even do that. I said that like Philip Rivers. Whoa, there we go. He is
Justin
available
Herbert.
this week. Justin Herbert, I said has not been playing well. And I said in his defense, he's playing with a broken left hand. And his QB rating, his numbers had not been good for a few weeks. He had great numbers against
Dallas.
Dallas.
Been decimated since preseason.
Right. So it wasn't like, it's like the thing with Lamar, right? You're realistic. He's not healthy. Although Lamar, there's other things. But, I mean, Herbert.
I actually believe that Justin Herbert might be unhealthy. Lamar, I'm questionable on.
Well, I don't think, the broken hand on your left hand, they don't have him under center because it hurts to take snaps. I mean, that's a real injury. with that said, he tore up the Cowboys last week, but everybody does. Dallas is a terrible defensive team. And I didn't really even knock Herbert. I just said that the Chargers offense has been very mediocre. And if you look at their numbers throwing the ball, they've had like 160 some yards passing, like in 3 of the last 5 games. I mean, the numbers don't lie, but this guy was very upset about that apparently. And that's one less viewer. So instead of 45,182 views, we're going to have 45,181 next week on the videos. But I do think they're a very mediocre offensive team right now with him banged up, and I do think the Texans have a defensive edge. They're as good as anybody in the league defensively. So yeah, live defensive home dog would be what I'd say with this. And you can make a case. The Packers are the better defense, but the Packer offense has really been struggling as well. And that's that blown lead against Chicago. You got to wonder if that's going to linger as well. Something we didn't talk about. I don't want to call the Ravens a defensive dog, but their defense has been better in recent months, especially against subpar offensive teams. I think the Packers somewhat qualify, especially without Jordan Love.
As much as everyone wants Harbaugh to get fired, I would love I don't like Zach Orr as a defensive coordinator. I hope that they find someone who actually knows how to run a defense and doesn't wait until, week 15 in order to try to get the defense's act together. But that's just me. NBA Christmas was yesterday. We do have a big slate of NBA tonight, and there's one injury I didn't get to at the top of the show. I'm curious your thoughts. Anthony Davis, surprise, surprise, is going to miss some time with his groin strain. How do we pivot when betting these games?
Yeah, I think first of all, today's tricky because a lot of the teams that played yesterday are not on the board tonight. So I'm kind of treading lightly with this NBA card, and the other teams have been off for several days. We get this before and after the All-Star break. It's like a mini bye. You don't get buys in basketball. We also got it with the cup action here in recent weeks. Anthony Davis, obviously an important player. I think the first thing you think is, well, it's an offensive star that's out. Totals drop a bit, but sometimes you get value with the over in these type of games because he's a good defensive player as well, and it opens up the middle for the other team. So some overs might be worth a look in some of those games, and some opposing teams' team totals over might be worth a look as well, and then you can just kind of take that whole side of the equation out.
Jay Buff. Hi, Jay Buff. Merry Christmas to you. I like the over in Detroit, Utah tonight. Do you have an opinion?
The over in Detroit, Utah, Pistons, first of all, been an incredible story this year, and we have seen a little bit of money coming in the over in this one, open 243 up to 244, 44.5 now, and would not disagree with the over. As you know, Ariel, I always say the highest totals go over. Now, 244 is not necessarily a high total anymore. The highest total on the board tonight, 250. And you want to talk about a line move. Miami, Atlanta opened 243.5. It's now up to 250, 250.5. The Miami Heat.
And Adebayo's ruled out too. The Heat center/power forward now.
Yeah, and there you go, right? A big man ruled out, and the total's going up. So it kind of tells you it opens things up. And one of the reasons is because Miami plays fast. They've had one of the lowest percentage of pick and rolls in NBA history this year, like 13% or something. And it's because they literally want to run and gun. And totals, handicapping totals is all about pace, whether it's college or pro basketball. And you get to a point where like they've set it high enough, but once again, historically speaking, if you just play these biggest totals over, you usually win more times than not. So I wouldn't disagree with Detroit, Utah over 244 or Miami, Atlanta over 250.
KT said, sorry, I was trying to tweet out something that you were on the show.
I was just tweeting the same thing. That's insane.
Really?
I typed it on top of Max earlier and I forgot to send it. I just hit send. You're going to see it like in 2 seconds.
I always like to tweet it out because
see, like the hands are up. I just sent it already before you said anything.
It gets lost in the algorithm, so I like to remind people that we're on, and then people are like,
that's why I held, because I know you normally do that. I was like, well, I'll piggyback on the one she does, but then I knew I wasn't going to be typing, while I'm talking, and
it's hard. It's hard to be the one-man band.
You need assistance, Ariel. You and I need to hire an assistant. Why don't we go in 2-for-1 special? They get both of us, and we pay half each. We get an assistant.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. My mom says, she goes, sometimes you're not paying attention when your guest is speaking. I said, because I'm tweeting out that the guest is speaking.
That's multitasking, Mom.
Multitasking. It's hard to do. King K T 126. He says, any sides in the NBA that you like?
Any what in the NBA?
Sides.
Sides? I thought you said sides. We'll say there's a little bit of money coming in on Washington right now. That line opened 9.5 down to 8. It's hard for me to ever say I like the
Washington?
Wizards. Yeah, I was going to say, so I don't want to say I like that side, but I will say there's a little bit of money coming in on them there. Unless an injury's coming out recently, which I have not seen, that might be a little bit of a sharp move on the Wizards. Look, at some point,
it's a really hard team to handicap.
Well, it wasn't too hard the first couple months. You just played against them. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Wizards have been so historically bad this year. You probably will start to get some value with them in the near future. And, I talk about that mini buy that we kind of have coming in for all these teams tonight. You kind of look for a disruption when you want to, I said yesterday with the Chiefs, they've been so bad, maybe having the third string quarterback would be a little bit of a disruption, a reset for them. And they did get the cover. But of course, it's because that line, as we talked about, was drastically inflated from what it would have been just a month ago. You look at these Wizards now, they have won 2 of their last 5 games. They've covered 4 of their last 6. So maybe we're starting to get some value, but most of those covers plus 15, plus 10, plus 12, plus 16. And, they didn't cover as a 6-point dog against Charlotte a few games ago on the 23rd. But if you're going to play maybe a side tonight, I wouldn't be opposed to Washington. It looks like a little sharp money's coming in there. And I do think at some point we're going to start getting more value with them.
There are some of the teams that played on Christmas yesterday playing tomorrow. How do you approach those teams that did play on Christmas?
Nothing special. I treat those as normal games. They're obviously high-profile games, and just like in football, after a physical game, you worry about a little bit of a letdown or a hangover. But like you said, they put a lot of them tomorrow instead of tonight, give them some rest. But one team I thought of you when I saw the result, and unfortunately I liked OKC, as you know, yesterday. But I also thought the under, because I thought they'd bring the defense. So the under actually did cash. But the side, they got blown out again by 15. The Spurs have given them 3 of their 4 losses this season. How crazy is that? And
it's the
I know. And you said you'd like the Spurs as a long shot to win the whole thing this year.
At least the West.
Well, I mean, you win the West, you should win the whole thing because OKC is the team to beat. And I think it's a matchup thing. My first thoughts as I dig through those box scores, I looked at them again today, was that SGA does a good job taking the ball to the hoop. You've got a lot of size and some interior, obviously, with Wemby, down there to interior defense. But where SGA has actually struggled in those 3 losses, 3 for 17 from the 3-point line against San Antonio. Wow. He's made only 1 in each of the 3 games, including yesterday. I think he was like 1 for 6 or 1 for 7 yesterday. 3 for 17 from 3. And this is a guy that on the season is still shooting over 42% from 3-point range. That means he's probably like 44, 45% against all other teams. So I think there's something there. I think the length of the defense also is causing him trouble. There's a little bit of a matchup edge, I think, for San Antonio. We'll keep an eye on that. I bring that up, though, because the Thunder do not play tonight. They do not play tomorrow. They do play Sunday, though, afternoon game against Philly. So we'll see if the Thunder are really as good as they should be because they're off back-to-back losses now for the first time all season with some rest. So that's kind of a situation there, where I would look to maybe play on a team off these Thursday Thanksgiving. I did it again.
I keep doing that too. It's taken every part of my brain to not say it was Thanksgiving because Christmas was on a Thursday.
Well, yeah, every Thursday is right. Thanksgiving. TH. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you're doing it because I've done it 2 or 3 times the last couple of days. And
me too. I've had to think when you it's very rare that I have to pause. I've trained myself sometimes to pause before I know I'm going to mess up. Player names that are hard, pause, think, say it. I've been doing that before saying Christmas because I keep wanting to say Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I didn't even think twice about it. It's come out a few times wrong, though, which is very interesting to think that we're doing the same thing. I think it's the Thursday thing. It does, as far as sports go, you and I do this for a living. Everyone thinks it's the greatest job ever, and it's pretty cool at times. But the downside, as you know, is that you're working on Thursday Thanksgivings, you're working on Christmases,
nonstop.
You're working on New Year's Eves. It's busy.
And you would know the part, and I don't want to complain because we're working a dream job. My sister works in hospital. My sister, since we're Jewish, we don't celebrate Christmas. She decided she's going to work Christmas Eve and Christmas.
Sure.
They get time and a half for working. We don't get time and a half for working extra because we want to win on the big holidays. We just get paid the same amount, or we have to wait and hope that we hit our bets. That is our time and a half, is winning bets. That's it.
Yeah, that's why for me it's like I say Thanksgiving Thursday because there's football games, and there were 3 NFL games yesterday is why it really screwed me up because it felt like a Thursday of NFL action.
It felt like Thanksgiving.
The worst part about the schedule, the holiday stuff over 30 years now I've adapted to. It's not great, but I'm kind of numb to it. And like you and I did a show yesterday, right? I did my 8-pack videos I told you afterwards for the Saturday Bowl games, which is on WagerTalk TV now. But the worst part really long-term, because it applies every week, especially during football and even college basketball season, is that our weekends are really like Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That's like our Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And
honestly, I actually say my easiest days of the week, Monday and Tuesday because I've already capped the Monday game for the most part.
That's true.
When I was capping the weekend. So I do less capping on Monday and Tuesdays. Wednesdays, even though it's a slower sports day, I'm still capping because I'm getting ready for the next week ahead in the NFL.
That is true. Yeah, as I say, you have football Thursday through Monday, although I've really been doing a lot of the videos on Monday and Tuesday to get them up for the week. So like Wednesday has become kind of my light day, but as far as video content, but I get what you're saying though, as far as prep still, you're still working hard for the weekend. You're too young to remember Loverboy, great 80s rock band, Working for the Weekend. That was one of their songs like in the early 80s. Canadian, actually. I wonder if Prez knows them. Yeah, Loverboy was Canadian. They had like one or two
we've got
hits.
a lot of Canadians in the chat.
Yeah, but we're working for the weekend, like you said, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then we don't get the weekend off because all the games are happening then.
Yeah.
So
pretty
yeah,
much.
it's an interesting dynamic, but once again, it's a great job. You and I are doing it for a reason because we like it and we chose to do this.
Love.
I saw somehow one of your tweets popped up the other day, by the way. I meant to give you props on this. Someone said, get a real job, and you went off on them. I love that.
Yeah. I actually
you're so right. You're like, yeah, working a 9 to 5 that I hate with no upside. It's just like, but you and I think different, and that's why we do this. I'll tell you something someone told me back when I started in the 90s, right after college. I remember I'd work all weekend and whatever. I'd go and meet my friends, on Saturday nights as I'm in my early 20s. I started at age 22. I mean, you started young too. And, they're all starting off jobs. Everyone's out of college. And I remember someone said, like, I wouldn't have the discipline to work at home like you do. And I remember thinking about that. I'd never thought of it before. And I realized it's not for everybody. Like a lot of people need to punch in and punch out. There again, the discipline to work on a holiday, right? On New Year's Eve, to get everything done before you head out.
The discipline to work and off hours, and some people don't want to do that. It's also very hard to live a dream. It's hard to live a dream job because when I always said to people, there's no plan B to my dream job. It's always going to be plan A. It's just a matter of the path it takes to get there might be different, but the outcome is going to work. Some people aren't willing to make the sacrifices, like maybe not being at family dinner or not being fully in the zone at family dinner because you've got to go and handicap games or you have to go be on air and you have to do a show. We're not complaining. We're just saying sacrifices for your dream job pay off. And it's an amazing feeling. There's no such thing as getting a real job. If you're working what you love, it's a real job.
Yeah, and I will say that the older and wiser I've gotten, I tell the kids this nowadays, is that I'm a big believer in do something you like. Mm-hmm. And I know people and the people have said that over the decades, and they probably said it to us when we were younger. But nowadays, more so than especially when I was growing up, like pre-internet, like you could pretty much do anything from anywhere now. And, you can work remotely. You can work online.
More people today.
Yeah, I mean, look back like to the 30s or the 50s, right? You had to go to an office, you had to drive in. Like there was no internet, there was no computers. It's like you had to kind of physically do a job. You can create your own jobs. The other thing too is like every couple decades, 40 to 50% of all current jobs don't exist a decade or two later, and everyone's freaking out about AI now. But it will create new jobs that we don't know about, just like the internet created jobs that we didn't have. I think over 100 years ago, like 99% of this country, like in the late 1800s, were either farmers or worked for the railroad. It's like 1% now. So, things change. But anyone young out there listening right now, do what you like and it'll take you in different directions. But you'll always, what you're saying, if you enjoy what you do, you don't mind working late hours. You don't mind working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week.
It doesn't feel like work.
Correct. It's like a hobby that pays you.
It's a hobby that pays you, and you do it really well, Steve Merrill. You have been absolutely taking off on YouTube, by the way, over at WagerTalk TV. What videos, where can they go to see what work you've put out, and also what are you promoting at WagerTalk?
Yeah, it's a great example. Like for decades, Matt Jones, I've known Matt for almost 20 years now. We've done radio, both two Virginia guys. You had two Virginia guys within an hour of each other on the show tonight. I'm impressed. Richmond and the Williamsburg area. But, I did radio for decades, and I enjoyed it. But then with the whole WagerTalk thing, I realized I really liked the video stuff. I'd never done that until 5-6 years ago. And that's why the videos do well. I enjoy doing the videos, just like you enjoy doing the shows.
And you do very good research.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, as you do also with these shows, this is helping us handicap games, right? We're we're shooting ideas back and forth. Matt giving out a field goal yardage prop. I thought maybe I'd slept for a couple months and it was Super Bowl Sunday. I was like you said, who has that available? That's crazy. But Matt digs deep also. And, Yeah, Matt,
I only
I mean,
bring
all of
people on
us.
the show that I know give good info. I feel like info is really hard to find these days in the gambling space because it's become all about entertainment.
Well, by the way, when I was signing off yesterday, I heard you give out the long shot prop that just missed, the touchdown prop with
The
the incentive.
last one of the game, the last
No, but I love the
one!
minute I heard the reasoning behind it, I was like, that is brilliant. The contract extension for or the contract bonus for a team that's out of the playoffs with a third string quarterback. I mean, you got a nice price on that. It was like what, 8-1, 850?
It was a 9-1, and then it dropped to plus 850, and I was like, I gotta bet this. I bet it second week in a row that it's lost, but next week is the week because the Chiefs get the Raiders, and that is one of the worst defenses who literally has nothing to play for in the NFL. Now you've got a third string quarterback playing in his third week, and Hollywood Brown, he makes $750K if he scores a touchdown. Do it against the Raiders in Vegas. How fitting is that?
That money's not coming out of Andy Reid's pocket or the offensive coordinator's pocket, right? So they wanted to get it. I love that angle. That was something that was not on my radar until I heard you say it yesterday.
I hope it's 8-1 at least next week. It's probably going to drop a little against the Raiders. The Broncos are a really good defense against wide receivers. I had to take it for just it being. It was 4-1 2 weeks ago, but that was Gardner Minshew under center. So now we've got a new quarterback, and it went all the way to 9-1 against Denver. This week against Vegas, I'm very curious, but I'm hoping it's still in that 7 to 8-1 range.
Yeah, it's hard to say Minshew's twice as good, but the defense obviously makes a big difference between Denver and the Raiders. But yeah, I mean, that's a great thing about it, free information.
If you hit that in Vegas.
Yeah, but that's what's great about free information, right? You hear all these tidbits and you can use them or you lose them, right? And that's what I do with the videos is like I try to get people behind the curtain what I'm doing, how I'm handicapping these games, and use them or lose them. And if I speak bad about Justin Herbert, you never have to watch again, like the one guy said. So it's a great thing about
if you're watching a gambling show and you can't take it when we say to fade your team, then you shouldn't be gambling.
I know. Well, the best is he'll be back commenting about how I'm ripping the Chargers in a couple weeks in the playoffs. So he'll be back.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be terrible. But
yeah, WagerTalk TV though, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Go there, find it.
Go find Steve Merrill. He's blowing up on YouTube. He's like basically YouTube famous at this point. Steve, thanks so much. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Hero. Great seeing you.
Merrill. That was great. It's so great to get really good, informative people on the show. It's almost 6 o'clock, so we've got week 17 already of propaganda. These are already the most bet on props as of today, according to BetMGM. Coming up this weekend, Quentin Johnston under his receiving yards for the Chargers up against a very good defense in Houston. Rico Dowdle under receptions, which is interesting because there is a contract incentive for Rico Dowdle this week. The Rico Dowdle contract extent. Where is it? I just want to get the numbers right. Dowdle should have already earned $1.5 million more due to gained scrimmage yards. That was also based on one of many individual or team improvements, one of which was already been achieved. Dowdle has also earned $250K for scoring at least 6 total touchdowns. Dowdle can earn, this is what he can do. Dowdle can earn $250K if he gets one more total touchdown so that he would have 8. He currently has 7. Dowdle can also earn the largest incentive of $1 million if he gets 1,350 scrimmage yards. He's currently at 1,280. So he needs 70 more scrimmage yards, Rico Dowdle, for the Carolina Panthers this week. And this week, Carolina, let me just get any kind of, let's see. They get Seattle. And Seattle, let me see defensively. Fifth most receiving yards per game allowed to running backs. Very interesting that the public is fading Rico Dowdle this week when Mr. Dowdle needs receiving yards and rushing yards. It's scrimmage yards that he needs. And he's getting a Seattle D that's been pretty good this year, but they still struggled the last couple of years against running backs out of the backfield. I would be looking at Dowdle over receiving yards maybe. Maybe you don't have to do receptions, but he can make a milli if he gets 70 scrimmage yards. A milli. It's his highest incentive. He's going to want it. And Carolina needs it. Carolina needs to win this game to have a chance at the division. Rico Dowdle over receiving yards this week. We are fading the public there. Tony Pollard for Tennessee over his rushing yards. Jaden Higgins under receptions. And Josh Allen under rushing attempts, which we could look up over at props.cash. Josh Allen. Let's see Josh Allen's home road splits for props.cash. Clearly, I was looking at Jerry Jeudy for this weekend. Josh Allen rushing yards. They're home this week. At home this year, Josh Allen is averaging 41 rushing yards. His prop's 30.5, but this is rush attempts. Home this year, rush attempts, averaging just under 8 rush attempts per game at home. It's okay. Away. So he's definitely running more at home this year overall, but lately he has been running more on the road, Josh Allen. Let's see what the Eagles allow. How many quarterbacks go over their rush attempt prop against the Eagles? Quarterback, last 10, 60% went over, 47% on the season. But in the last 10 games, quarterbacks have been going over their rush attempts. So again, just going back to what the public says, they're going under rush attempts. Again, remember, weather is going to play a factor in that game because it's going to be snowy / rainy, cold. Maybe Josh Allen does have to take matters into his own hands with an Eagles D that's been very good against tight ends, pretty good against the pass. So I'd be a little eerie there on that Josh Allen under. I've only gotten through the entire slate for Saturday. I'm going to finish handicapping the Sunday slate at some point, and then I'll make a video and put it on the YouTube page. If you don't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Prop Queen Media. I post all of the clips from the show there. Everything from guest segments that I cut up to like clips of good topics that I've cut up. And also all the Prop Queen edges are always posted there, even if we don't have a show. So make sure to check out and subscribe and like on the YouTube channel. It really, really means a lot. But I will get Prop Queen edges posted at some point between tonight and tomorrow. I'm snowed in. I think it's snowing here. So I'm going to be handicapping the rest of the NFL slate coming up for Sunday. But these are the Saturday games. These are things to definitely keep an eye on for tomorrow's game, starting with this really good Chargers and Texans game. Both teams care, which is really important. In fact, it's great. It's saving us from Christmas because all 4 teams care in both games tomorrow. At least, whatever. We don't have to talk about the quarterback situation for Baltimore, Green Bay. Houston and the Chargers. The Chargers laying 1.5. This total dropped from 40.5 to 39.5. Starting with Chargers running back Omarion Hampton, he's under rushing yards. I was looking at some of the games he played in against teams that are top 10 against the run. So his prop 62.5. He played the Chiefs twice. He had 61 and 48. Against Denver, he did run for 70. He's gone under Hampton in 3 of 4 home games, averaging 54.5 rushing yards per home game this year. Houston's allowed the 5th least rushing yards per game to running backs. 62% of running backs have gone under their rushing yard prop this year against the Texans. If this game is close, we all know, too, that Justin Herbert likes to throw the football, especially indoors at home. The Texans have been so good on all sides of the ball. They are top 5 in every pretty much defensive category this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to take advantage of that offensive line. Granted, could that mean handoffs? Sure, but in a close game, they're probably not running the football, even though it's a low total. But anyway, Omarion Hampton under rushing yards. I'm very worried for the Chargers running the football against this Texans D. Houston's quarterback, C.J. Stroud, under his passing yards. It's a really small sample size. I don't love this as much. This is more because of the Chargers, but Stroud has faced one top 10 defense all year, and that was the Chiefs. On the road, he had 203 yards at Arrowhead, passing. I know it's a small sample size, but clearly, even though C.J. Stroud's been very good recently, and also I'm pissed because I had the over on his season-long passing yards last year, and he sucked down the stretch, and this year, all of a sudden, he's great down the stretch. But C.J. Stroud hasn't faced a tough pass D. This is going to be the one of the toughest pass Ds he's faced all year. Chargers, 5th least passing yards per game this year. Quarterbacks are averaging 195 passing yards a game. 72% of quarterbacks have gone under their passing yard prop against the Chargers this year. Stroud's gone under in 3 of 6 road games. On the road this year, he's averaging 224. which is like spot on with this number. It's not my favorite, but I am certainly not betting it over on CJ Stroud tomorrow. Then there's Woody Marks, under 8.5 receiving yards. This number does seem low for the Texans running back. However, he has not. I looked at the 3 games this year that Woody Marks played against a team that's top 10 against pass catching backs, aka top 10 defense, limiting balls out of the backfield to running backs. Woody Marks faced Denver, 0 catches, 0 yards. On the road at Indy, 1 catch, 3 yards. Buffalo, 1 catch, -5 yards. What does this tell us? The Texans aren't throwing the ball to Woody Marks, especially when there's pressure up front like the Chargers can do. He's only averaging, Woody Marks, just under 7 receiving yards per game on the road. He catches way more balls out of the backfield at home, but the Texans are in LA tomorrow, and the Chargers allow the 4th least receiving yards per game to running backs. 68% of running backs have gone under the receiving yard prop against the Chargers this year. Woody Marks goes under receiving yards. It's just been proven throughout the year that that's what he does against these defenses. A contract incentive worth noting. This number actually came down. It was 4.5 last week for Keenan Allen. Now it's 3.5. However, Keenan Allen is going to make $750,000 if he has 80 receptions this year. He's at 73. 2 games left. Texans, Broncos. He's close. I mean, he could hit 80, but they're going to have to get him the ball at least 4 times a game. I don't know if they'll do this or next week. Listen, I think incentives are way more useful in week 18. However, this game is meaningful. Keenan Allen is a very good receiver that is reliable for his quarterback, Justin Herbert. The Chargers are going to try to win the game because it does somewhat keep their division hopes alive. But yeah, Keenan Allen, that's the contract incentive to look for, and you're getting a better price than you got last week. I didn't handicap the Packers yet because they didn't announce a quarterback till right before we came on the show. It's going to be Malik Willis. I'll tell you, though, the Ravens allow the 5th most completions per game, 4th most pass attempts per game, 4th most receiving yards per game to running backs, 5th most receiving yards per game to wide receivers. I don't like capping the Packers wide receivers. Too many deep threats, similar receivers. It's a toss-up. I will tell you, though, we should be looking at a receiving yard prop out of the backfield for the Packers. I wonder if it's up. That would be the Packers look that I would take tomorrow. Depth chart. Let me just make sure that Josh Jacobs is okay. We never know these days, but Josh Jacobs is okay. Let's pull up props.cash. We'll do this live. Then we'll go through my Ravens. Clearly it's painful for me. Why aren't we working? Come on. Come on. I'm going to stop sharing. Props.cash does not want to work. Props.cash, share screen. Sorry, guys. We were a little frozen from Props.cash. There we go. I think. We do it live. If it will work live. Come on. There we go. Thank you. Josh Jacobs. We need his receiving yards. Receiving yards. Josh Jacobs at home, receiving yards this year, averaging 18 to 19 receiving yards a game. 3 of the last 4 have hit at home, just compared to the road. Okay, hit a little bit more on the road, but they're at home. Let's see. Ravens running backs, receiving yard prop, 63% in the last 10, 62% overall this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 of the last 8 have gone over running backs on their receiving yard prop against the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to take Josh Jacobs over. 9.5 receiving yards is low. Why is that under 151? That's weird. I'm going to have to look more into it, but that would definitely be the way I'd attack the Ravens defense tomorrow. Cut them up. Cut them up. That's how you win against the Ravens. Cut them up. Middle of the field. If you watched that game last week, the Ravens were absolutely destroyed in the middle of the field. What an embarrassment. The Patriots destroyed them in the middle of the field. So anyway, that's where you can get the Ravens. That's why we're going to take Josh Jacobs. I think that number 9.5 is way too low. against the Ravens defense. Trying to think too, like anyone who you think too, if you know the Packers well and you think there's certain receivers that'll take good slant routes, and again, cut up the middle of the field against the Ravens. Tyler Huntley under 29.5 rushing yards. I know that everyone's going to be all over this. They'll probably love the over because it's Tyler Huntley and they think he's a bad quarterback. He can't throw that well. So they're going to think Tyler Huntley's going to run with the football. No, he doesn't. Tyler Huntley is averaging 20 rushing yards per game on the road through his last 10 road games. And of course, that's going across a very large span of time. Tyler Huntley is a backup quarterback. I was looking at the last 3 seasons because Huntley's gotten into a few games a year throughout the last few years. 2023, he faced the Browns, who was a top 10 defense against mobile quarterbacks, like limiting quarterbacks on the ground. 2 carries, 8 yards. 2024, the one defense that he faced that's good at limiting quarterbacks on the ground. New England Patriots on the road. 3 carries, 7 yards. This year, of course, Tyler Huntley hasn't faced really many teams except last week against the Patriots. So I'm going to take the under. Green Bay's allowed the 3rd least rushing yards per game to quarterbacks at 12 rushing yards a game. 73% of quarterbacks went under their rushing yard prop against Green Bay this year. Tyler Huntley's number is at 29.5. That is really high. So I'm going to take the under 29.5 rushing yards on Tyler Huntley. It's also a very bad matchup for tight ends. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. If you watch, you know Mark Andrews' props are usually in the 30s. Well, they are not now. 24.5 receiving yards. Mark Andrews has faced 4 defenses this year that are top 10 against tight ends. Against Buffalo, Andrews had 1 catch for 5 yards. Against the Rams, 4 catches, 24 yards. In Minnesota, 3 catches, 14. And Houston, 2 catches, 22 yards. But those 2 games against the Rams and Houston, which came close to this 24.5 number, were at home. On the road, it's where he faced Minnesota and Buffalo, and that's where he had under 20 receiving yards in both those road games. Green Bay's allowed the 5th least receiving yards per game to tight ends. 72% of tight ends have gone under their receiving yard prop this year. 17 of the last 20 tight ends went under their receiving yard prop against Green Bay. Mark Andrews under 24.5 receiving yards. Am I going to be fading Ravens players in props? Hell yeah, I am. Screw them. Done. Over these players. So over this team. This is the worst, most devastating, horrible season, only because they should have been better. I don't care if you just suck. If you just suck, that's great. If you're the Jets and you just suck, your personnel sucks, everything sucks, that's great. When you have so many players that are so freaking good and you suck, that's a problem. Big problem. Like the Yankees, for example. No high hopes for them because they haven't done anything. They suck. I have high hopes for Team USA, WBC in Miami in a few months. Team USA looks on fire. That must be how it felt to be a Patriots and a Chiefs fan all these years when you could look at a team and say, oh yeah, we should win. That's how I feel with WBC. It's not how I feel about the Ravens or the Yankees. Anyway, those games tomorrow, I'm going to be snowed in. My brother actually said, no, it's not. I'm not fading the Ravens out of anger. Truthfully, I'm not. Here's the thing. If the Ravens had a really good matchup against Green Bay, I wouldn't take the overs because that's how low I am on the Ravens. But because Green Bay's defense is good against those 2 positions, I have no issue fading it. You guys know me. I'm willing to fade my own team and I'll hedge my own happiness. But I'm not doing it because I'm angry. I could separate the 2. I'm not betting on the Ravens to win or lose. That's the difference. I'm betting props. And I don't believe. I go straight off numbers. That's it. I just bet numbers. And that's why it's consistent. And that's why we consistently can win long term because we're betting numbers. We're not betting with emotion. The matchup defensively for the Ravens for Huntley to run. I'm not saying for Huntley to throw. Huntley to run and to throw to Mark Andrews. Not looking good against the Packers tomorrow. Does it mean that someone else can succeed? Sure. Maybe he has success throwing the football, Tyler Huntley. He didn't look so bad. Malik Willis, I don't really trust him. But I know that anyone could carve up the middle of the field against the Ravens defense. And the first game should be very good too. So those are my Prop Queen edges of the day. Again, subscribe to the YouTube page at the Prop Queen at Prop Queen Media on YouTube. Then you can find my plays for Sunday eventually. And I also always have the newsletter written. So check out the propqueen.com newsletter. Not only am I going to have plays for this weekend, but also premium subscribers, they get the Prop Queen guides of the weekend, the cheat sheets. You get all that stuff included into your premium subscription. You could also purchase, if you want, for like a one-time purchase, the cheat sheets as well over at the propqueen.com newsletter page. Make sure to go check that out. I hope you all have a very good holiday weekend. It's still a holiday weekend, which is why I'm going to go get wine downstairs. I'm going to make a fire in the fireplace at my parents' house. We're about to be snowed in here in New York. Marley's going to go play in 10 inches of snow. It's going to be fantastic. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. I will be on WagerTalk's last call as well on Sunday with the normal crew, Yanni the Greek, John Murray. We're going to talk what you need to know going into the Week 17 slate in the NFL as well. Happy holidays, guys. See you on Sunday and here on the Prop Queen Pod on Monday.